What is up, everyone? My name, as always, is For Extraordinaire, and we have a big set of announcements coming from Humankind in the form of a new surprise update, kind of a blitzkrieg update. We have been expecting this, but there has been quite a number of changes to unit balance, which is great to see. So I want to go over that, get some of those changes out, read them to you, and give my brief opinions on them, and then end out the video there. The first set of changes here, and this is quite massive, I have to say, is that there are actually now end conditions you can set. Of course, the base game will be relegated to getting that score victory. That's usually what everyone is still going after with this update, but there are new end condition settings if you prefer Civ 6's style of having things like science victories, win conditions like tourism. You can kind of tweak your end conditions and victories to that. So there is now a turn limit reached end condition, which is pretty self-explanatory. An all empires vassalized win condition, an all in-game technologies researched in condition, an all empires eliminated in condition, Mars conquered in condition, which kind of acts as a science victory, and then there is a pollution threshold research along with an era limit research. So a lot of these kind of have to do with time and kind of timing out the clock. So more or less kind of a score victory with what Civ 6 has, but there are some very interesting things in terms of like a reaching Mars first and then a all technologies research. So they kind of help with science in that regard. Unfortunately, there's not really a cultural victory in condition, but I expect as the devs kind of go ahead and tweak all of this, we'll kind of get something in a similar vein to a tourism victory, like with what we had in Civ 6. Now, the big meat, if you will, of this patch is the military balancing. Military balancing has been a key issue I think a lot of people have had with the game, along with other cultural balancing issues and complaints, and we've really wanted to see some buffs to things like the Noble Javelineers, the Olmecs, emblematic unit, I think it's just the Javelin Throwers, and then some other emblematic units to kind of round out the militarists, for those militarists that kind of feel weaker, as well as kind of nerfing some of the stronger, more opulent military units. A big change is that swordsmen no longer require iron to allow all players to have some up-to-date units in the classical era. Very, very big. Militarists won't have as big of an advantage if they have been building their military, so I think the AI will be able to put up a better fight if they don't exactly get the best start with iron, as strategic resources are crucial. Roman Praetorian Guards now unlock withstanding army and replace swordsmen. Very, very good as well. The Romans always kind of needed a big buff in that regard to actually being expansionist and being able to conquer other people with their military. So that is a very nice little buff to them. The Javelin Throwers and Noble Javelineers, I was honestly okay with the Noble Javelineers, but the Javelin Throwers for the Olmecs did receive a substantial buff. I'm not sure the exact numbers, but they have had their combat strength and ability improved. So I really, really am looking forward to kind of testing out the Javelin Throwers with the Olmecs and seeing just how much they've been improved, because as you may know, or if you don't know, they had a very, very weird kind of indirect fire or direct fire prerequisite they had to meet, and you basically had to put your units right up to the units, or you had to put them in the force to kind of maximize their combat strength, which of course really involved making them more vulnerable, which, as an archer, you don't have too much defense. That really, really sucked. Some other changes have been made to mortars, howitzers, Cossacks, the Mongol hordes, and then some of the later early modern units kind of going forward into history. Mortars now upgrade into siege artillery, so you no longer lose in direct fire capability. Howitzers gain some combat strength and upgrade into helicopter gunships for direct fire support. And then Cossacks are now stronger than Dragoons. Mongol hordes have increased combat strength to fare better against the common pikemen. I thought the Mongol hordes were already kind of opulent, or I guess opulent's not the correct term. They were already kind of oppressive, I guess. And I don't know if they needed that buff, as they are very easy to kind of replenish. And you really are disadvantaged against them in flat terrain, so I don't think they needed too big of a buff. But I am glad to see that the Cossacks are stronger than the Dragoons, because the Cossacks were kind of underwhelming in a few scenarios. It didn't make sense for them to be weaker than the unit they were replacing. And then the Siege Elephants, Gajnal, Varangian Guards lost a lot. They say a lot and the devs usually are very careful with their words. They lost a lot of combat strength to end their undisputed battlefield superiority, so I didn't really test out the Varangian guards, but the Gajnal and the siege elephants, they were kind of nasty to deal with. And then finally, cruise missiles and SOMs now only cost a fraction of a multi-role fighter, and I guess that makes a lot of sense. Now, you can find the full list of changes in the patch, yada, 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 but the devs just basically ended this with saying that they are happy to hear that the Dia de los Muertos event was popular, and I guess they received a lot of positive feedback, and they also are putting out more forms of art that they used in the event to kind of promote Humankind's art team, which is great because their art team is phenomenal. So just kind of getting back to my point of view as a Humankind YouTuber and someone that plays the game a lot, not so much that I put away my livelihood playing the game, but I do play Humankind a lot and test it. I haven't played it nearly as much, but I am excited, kind of waiting for this update. I am excited to see some more balance changes. I'm really excited to see win conditions overhauled. Now there's a lot more customization in the way that players can kind of tweak around with their win condition settings, and I'm just overjoyed to see that the devs are taking care and just listening to community feedback, especially with their little note about promoting the art team and whatnot, and listening to how players respond. I think Civ 6 kind of missed that a lot. I'm not saying Firaxis didn't care about their community, but I feel that the devs have been a lot more open and communicative. The devs even speak to players on Discord at times, and I think on G2G, but the devs team overall has been a lot more transparent, and they've been a lot more responsive to player feedback, and that is always great to see, especially with the kind of current state of Humankind. So I'm glad to see they're rapidly improving, and I really hope going forward that we continue to see more customization options, and hopefully in the future ways that players can share their avatars to really start some online competitions, maybe of who has the most op avatar, or just kind of going out and increasing player interactions just with online features like that. Anyhow, I won't go on too much of a tangent. I just really have to say I am proud with how the devs have kind of been responding to everyone's complaints and concerns and how they've been addressing that. And I guess the only big thing left on my wish list for Humankind is some serious balanced patches before we possibly see the first DLC. So thank you guys again so much for watching. I love you guys as always. Thank you so much for supporting me. And if you like this kind of content, I also recommend checking out my other video where I talk briefly about the Dia de los Muertos event and kind of highlight why it's important and a few of the challenges that you can complete to get some unique rewards for that.